once again, this is still in the middle of a shleishim of my nephew, so this is in Nishmas Yisrael Meir ben Daniel Zalman Yisrael. Young man died. B'kitzur Yomim. He should have an aliyas and neshama. I'm teaching now. This is right before Purim because by next time around is already going to be trying Purim dik. I find Purim to be one of the most misconstrued, convoluted, almost lonely, misunderstood holidays. People, obviously, it must be a very special day because the Satan has taken it to a place where people think they walk around, they lose Selim Elokim, they become terribly inebriated and act as fools. Losing das, it's actually a bizoyin b'charpa. I personally can't handle it. I don't want to say anything. Even in yeshivas, certain customs, I have no reason why a mature person should be dressed up as the Pink Panther or something like that. I don't understand any value at all of any sort of drinking outside of the Suda. That's especially like Kedin. The din is only Chai Vodin of Sumapur is only in the Suda proper, only after until Shaddai. Why are people drinking on Leil Purim? Basically, just as I get Hamaratzis, and when they're drinking wherever they go, it's a halacha in the Suda Sayyim, Upper Rama open a Shulchan Aruch. Rambam writes, if you see a person drunk, you should perceive him as the lowest person possible. He says, think of him as a person walking in Times Square nude. That's what he writes. He says, when you see a person which is inebriated to the extent that he's lost his das, think of him that way. There's a Shalah which describes this at length and says how terrible it is to be inebriated. He said, but we did see Kedoshim Asher Ba'aretz, holy people, which they drank a bit more than regular, and this was specifically in order to lose their inhibitions and to give out more Torah that they normally would. And this is a Gemara. The Gemara said the children of Rabchia came to a Suda of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said, Agbar lechamra, bring them a lot of wine. They should say wise things. And the Gemara Taka says they gave him a bit to drink, and they said things which weren't heard Miaz Yeshua ben Nun. Yeah, I remember seeing the Lubavitcher Rebbe at Purim for Brenga, you know what I mean? When he used to drink more than usual, he didn't drink much, but more than usual, and then the depth of things that were said then were beyond. I remember my Mashpia in Lubavitcher, Biel Khan. The more he drank, the harder it was to understand him because he was pouring away. You know what I mean? That's something else. That Shalah says this we understand. But otherwise, it's a big problem. The other thing I don't understand, and my problem with Purim is, what's this idea of Mechias Amalek? You know, and everyone likes to think, well, anybody that wants to kill the Jews is Amalek. Today, I'm imagining that we're going to say that Hamas is Amalek. Zaymer Moichel. I mean, once again, these are halachic terms. This is not up for interpretation of news articles. Amalek is basically a certain Umma b'bnei Esav, Rambam. With greatest respect, the Palestinians run between either they come from Africa or maybe they're bnei Yishmael, so they're running either Yishmael or Chum, which has nothing to do with Esav. So to say this is Amalek is once again, it's just ignorance. As simple as that. I have to find somebody who's going to tell me that the Germans were Amalek. Did they paskin halacha that you see a German child of 1 day old that you slice his throat? I don't think even Reb Soloveitchik would paskin that. So that was a very good vertela in the name of Reb Chaim. Up in halacha, it doesn't stand. It doesn't hold water. No one's going to dream that we're going to paskin halacha of Mechias Amalek. And any nation which wants to destroy, you know, it's begetter the ethical Amalek, but what's it got to do with the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek? Garnish, weiter garnish. This is pashit. It's terrible, and yet there is a mitzvah, and the mitzvah is not just to remember it, but let's read it inside. We have to figure out these mitzvahs have something to do with us. And every year I go through this, and last year I taught this, and I think I have a slightly different take to it today. I want to read inside. So you have your sheets. Let's just read the first source from Mitzvah Kuf Peiches. This is from Sefer Mitzvahs of the Rambam. Shetzivanu, we've been commanded lahachris zera Amalek levad mishar zera Esav. The only one of the family of Esav, which we are commanded to totally eradicate, are the seed of Amalek. Schorim v'nekevos ktanim im gedolim, which means the child which is a day old. We're supposed to take his the throat and slice it. And I always wonder, I hate to say, thank God that we don't have that today. They can't find Amalek. I wouldn't know what to do. This is what the God says in the end of Parsha says. You must eradicate the Zechar Amalek, the memory of Amalek. Amaram, we have beforehand in the mitzvahs in Chaf and Kufay and Gimel Shlosh mitzvot and Stavu Yisrael b'shat nisatan la'aretz. The three mitzvahs with the nation was commanded when they enter Eretz Yisrael, Limnos la'am melech. They have to appoint a king. We know this. And then also afterwards, Livnot la'am beis habchira, to build the Beis Hamikdash. It's the second mitzvah the Klal Yisrael has to do. And the third one is la'achris zera Amalek. We have to destroy, eradicate the zera of Amalek. U'melchemes Amalek hi melchemes mitzvah. Here it's that specifically because other things are questionable whether they're melchemes mitzvah or not. But this is definitely a melchemes mitzvah. Gam kei l'kfaya be'er mishpatel b'perek shmini b'soita. There the halachas of melchemes mitzvah are found at the end of Masechta Soita. Soita has 49 pages. This is 45, 44. Now let's see how those two mitzvahs connect. We've been commanded, Lishkor, we must remember Masha Salanu Amalek, not what he did in Gaza and not what he did in Auschwitz, but to remember what Amalek did to us back. He came first in row to do bad to us when we left Egypt. And we have to constantly remember that he came first to attack us when we left Egypt. Is anybody very angry at that here in this room? I don't think so. I mean, we have a hard time remembering a little Pesach. According to Lashon Rambam, Atom in Mitzrayim. As if I left Egypt. No, and now you're also going to remember the attack of this tribe that came from the hills east of Eilat, crossed the Sinai to attack us right as soon as we left Yam Suf. This is the Geschäft. Does anybody remember it? Does anybody think about it? And this is the mitzvah. Not to hear the Kriyas Torah, but actually to B'chol 8 v'eight. We must constantly remember this. And what that is supposed to be such a vivid and real memory. We know, and we should awaken, actually arouse the people with words, to go battle him. In other words, your idea of Mechemes Amalek is a mitzvah to remember them in order to destroy them. If they make something here in Keren B'Yavne to read the Sefer, to read the Chumash, if it's with 12, Nuschois, Smarad, Ashkenaz, Taimani, Baladi, I don't know. They think this is the big deal. It's a Chavali al Azman. The mitzvah me'ikar adin is lav dafkin a Sefer Torah. That's the honest truth. The Rambam doesn't even bring it in the Sefer Torah. And the mitzvah is daily, lav dafka this Shabbos. This Shabbos is once a year. We do it because before Purim. But Lamaisa, we're supposed to be thinking about it. This must be constantly in the back of our minds that we want to go kill them. We want to go and do war with them. Honestly saying, let's go further. And we have to put the people, make the people want to hate them. And this is something which is unbelievably hard to accept. I must say honest truth. I wonder something I don't think I never hated anybody. I don't know what hate is. I've heard about it. I've seen it. The only time I really experienced hate, I still remember, I'll never forget it. I was going on a shvuas from Crown Heights to Borough Park, and it was on Empire Boulevard. There was the people go to say divrei Torah in shuls from Crown Heights to Borough Park or other places. It's called a talucha. And so I was straggling on the side, and I was walking myself. This is near where Ebbets Field used to be. Alan, you must know that. That's where the Dodgers used to be when they were still in Brooklyn. Okay, you know what I mean? Near Ebbets Field. And all of a sudden, a guy I suddenly see the guy, hey, kike! I turned around, and I got a fist in my face. And then I didn't know what kike was. I was a nice kid from Chicago. I didn't know kike. Kike means Christ killer. So I was hate. Then I felt the first time in my life the emotion of hate. I was hated. Kike, a fist in my face. I was blown up like a who knows what. I didn't go to Borough Park. You can imagine. Okay, you know, I stayed in Crown Heights. Okay, this is the only time I think I encountered real hate. I mean, I didn't understand, like, why would he do this to me? And I'm supposed to feel this way about Amlek now, but a tribe that attacked my forefathers, hell, man, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. It's impossible. How do you put this together? And not because he wants to kill me today. He ain't around because he attacked me then. Because he wanted to destroy me a few thousand years ago. I have to hate him today in 2025. You help me understand how this is possible. And the Rambam brings it. In Sefer Mitzvah, the Rambam writes he only brings mitzvahs which are noyeg l'dayros. He doesn't bring mitzvahs which are only l'sha'ah. It means it's noyeg l'dayros. It's going to be noyeg until Achris HaYamim, because then there won't be any more Amalek. The pasuk says Achris Adei Oived. But as long as there's an Amalek, you want to see, oh boy, give me a 1-day-old baby. I'm going to slice his throat and make salami out of him. You really have that feeling? I don't. And I'm Orthodox. I don't understand how anybody can. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the Lashon of the Rambam. There is no mitzvah like this in Chol HaTorah Kula. There's no mitzvah of hating anybody. There's no mitzvah. Even a Bala Beira, which the pasuk says Tachlis Sina Sinesim, Taisus writes, which can't be a Sina Gemura. That's why if you have a chamor, a donkey which is laden with, it's overbearing, it's laden, and you have a friend of yours which has a donkey which is laden, you have to first help your soiner and not help your friend. Why? Zok Taisa, to show that it's not a Sina Gemura. You hate his rishis, you don't hate him as a person. But here you want to kill them. It means you hate them. There's no such mitzvah b'chol haTorah kula. This is the only place where I know where Judaism demands an emotion of hate. Not just an emotion of hate enough to slice the throats. As I say slice the throat because I'm thinking of Shmuel HaNavi. That's what he did to Agag. By Shasef, Shmuel Agag, he cut off his head from his body. That's what he did. Ad shelo tishatacha mitzvah, lest the mitzvah should not be forgotten, v'lo tichalesh sinato, and that hate should not be abated, shouldn't become weakened. This is literally just this is the parallel of b'chol dor v'dor chayiv adam diris atzma ki'ilu yotza b'mitzrayim. B'chol dor v'dor, you have to feel that you were attacked by Amalek when you left Mitzrayim, and therefore you actually should hate him. That's what Zachor means. So let's understand. It doesn't just remembering a pasuk in the Chumash and telling some ancient story. It's got to be something vivid, real, which conjures up emotions today in 2025. The Lashon Sifri, Zachor et asher asa lecha bepeh. Well, first of all, do the ritual. Say it orally. V'lo tishkach b'leiv, but your emotions, your heart should be real. It has to be in your heart. You should say words, things with your mouth, which should cause people that emotion of hate should not be weakened and leave the hearts of man. So forget this, not to have this emotion is allowed. Leitishkach is a loisis, and God help me. So what do we see? Behold and look in the Haftorah of next this coming Shabbos, Shmuel Hanavi, the prophet Samuel, what did he do? Well, he started, if you look in the Psukim, Zachar Tchila Maser Hara. He wasn't just saying, hey, go kill Amalek. He once again repeated, it was like it's like a pep talk before a football game, before kill them. Yes, yeah, get them. This is the idea. You're supposed to walk at the show, and this is supposed to be rabble rousing. We should all be walking out with with guns and say, yeah, let's find ourselves in Amalek. What's happening here? First, he reminded the people of the terrible things that he did. He first conjured up the emotions, and only after the emotions are in, then he said, act on those emotions. This is the mitzvah. This is basically it. This is okay. The next say is Sefer Mitzvah Leisin and Tessie repeats this, and I want to understand how can this possibly be Bisman Hazeh. Bisman Hazeh. I don't know how could it be 100 years ago. I don't know how it could be 1,000 years ago. What does it mean, these mitzvahs? And this is the Talmud L'Doros. So the Mafteach, the answer to this lies. Well, I'm going to tell you over something I once taught, Mamish, when we had the COVID thing. I once taught a letter of the Ramchal. I don't have it in front of me. I just thought about it now. Where the Ramchal was asked, he said he had some kind of aliyas on the Shama, and he asked, what is the idea that God punishes us? That he doesn't let us do mitzvahs? I mean, if the whole idea of an Einish of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is because to teach it, because we do the mitzvahs, we're doing Averos. So what's the idea of taking away the capability of doing mitzvahs? He's talking specifically about the Inquisition, which was found in Italy, and in Spain at the time, where basically the church, they burnt all the Gemaras, etc., and they burnt the Jews. Jews couldn't keep mitzvahs. I mean, what does God want? Why would he do a thing like that? Like, that doesn't add up. Mida Keneged Mida is supposed to teach us how to do our mitzvahs. What do we gain by taking away the possibility of mitzvahs? And the Ramchal writes there, I'm sorry I don't have it with me, I'll just say it about Peh. He says, Oisei Ador, that generation was Oived Avodah Zarah Shebalev. They were very frum. They were very, 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 they're very fine people, frum people, went to Mincha Ma'ariv and the Daf Yomi and the works. But inside, culturally, they were so far from religiosity, spirituality, God, consciousness that's beyond. They were externally Jewish, but inside they were empty. I would say they were inverted Maranos. If a Marano was a Jew, which inside was Jewish and outside acted as a Christian, they were culturally inside Christians, but they were observant Jews. I hate to say it, this is not something which is only them. Multitudes of Jews that live in externalities and have no their inner self doesn't really connect to religion or to or beliefs or anything like that. It's much more the external facade of do mincha, do ma'ariv, do this, do that. So he says, God, and he describes why he has a very interesting Mekavers that maybe one day we'll read it again. And he says, God sees that we're doing nothing more than external acts of religion. So what he does is he takes that away from us. And then we feel empty. And all we have left is only the memories and the thoughts. And then what we do is we have gaguim, we're hoping to get back those things. And in the meantime, what we connect to is only the values of those mitzvahs, what that mitzvah is supposed to mean. And since you don't have the external expression, you focus on the value that mitzvah is supposed to teach you. And when we've done enough, and thank God we've come back to really internalize the value, the inner dimension of the mitzvah, then he'll give it back to you. There's a Bnei Yissaschar like that, where the Bnei Yissaschar writes in Tisha B'Av that Mashiach will come when Jews will really miss the Beis Hamikdash. I remember a conversation I had with a very profound scholar, Rabbi Dean Steinsaltz, Zechariah. He once told me, Mendel, you know why Mashiach's not coming? Why? No one really wants him. Are you kidding? All the Gaboim Mashul will be fired. All the Rosh Yeshivas will be out of a job. All the Rabbanim will become working in a municipality because, let's face it, he'll tell the truth. Okay, so what are we going to do? Who wants him? It'll be Elyonim lemata and Tachtonim lemala. That's what it's going to be. It doesn't even matter. Who wants him? They pay lip service to it. And they sing Animam, and we're quite happy the way it is. Status quo ante. That's what he told me. It was very frightening to hear that, but after I thought about it, it's the truth. What do I need him for? I mean, the idea of a Mashiach is not people. It's going to be a monarchy, man. I can't even vote him out. What happens if he's a jerk? Okay, or his son will be a jerk, like Shlomo Melech's son. I'm stuck with him. You can't vote him out. Can you imagine you'd be stuck with an Obama for the rest of your life? I mean, it's impossible. So that's the thing. I remember telling this to my mother, Mom, you want Mashiach? So she says, yeah, well, Mom, it's going to be a king. You mean it? It won't be a democracy? No. Well, you sure? You know what I mean? So poor Mom, she thought it was a democracy. No, Mom, you can't vote the guy out. You're stuck with him forever. So that Dina was right. Nobody really wants him. And nothing's going to happen until you really want him. And the Beis Hamikdash will only be built after you have gaguim for it. Until then, it ain't happening. So you can sing Yibana Beis Hamikdash from Heinz bis Morgen, as they say. Unless you really want it, it's not going to happen. So obviously, that's what the Ramchal says. Ramchal says God takes away the external expression of religion in order for you to focus on the internal values of religion. Hopefully, then you'll be able to do the external expressions of religion with what it really means. And this idea of Ramchal, very nice, is found in the Rishon. It's in the text in front of you in the Sefer Akedas Yitzchak. Okay, he lived roughly 1350. Okay, this is before the expulsion for Spain. Okay, and this is what he writes in Shar Nun Aleph. Let's read this together because this is the Yisodis, which will help us understand a lot of mitzvos. Hinei kol mitzvot batlu b'avonotenu. Most of the mitzvahs are annulled; they're not around anymore. There's very few mitzvahs left. Actually, the Rambam in the end of Mitzvahs Aseh, of Sefer Mitzvahs, points out there's only 60 Mitzvahs Aseh that we have constantly. Out of the whole 248 Mitzvahs Aseh, you only have something like 60 left at the moment. So that's a small percentage. So he says, the obligation of the body. The Kalahi, it's quite like sometimes you think that most of the mitzvahs are part of ancient history and nothing to do with the life we live. This is what I have to okay. We look at all these different mitzvahs. It's very nice to read. You're hearing 4 parshas about the Mishkan. You look at this. What's it got to do with anything? So you want to tell me stories? Very nice. We'll read Bible stories. So, and that's not even mitzvahs l'dairos, but karbanis. Karbanis says before l'dairos. Okay, it's marked the million on mitzvahs. Anybody know about it? Mazeh Shama Moshe l'chol Yisrael. Simu levavchem l'chol advarim asher nochi me'id b'chem hayom asher tetzaveh mipneichem. Listen, heed carefully to everything I'm teaching you today. That you should command it to your children lishmor, to guard them, v'lasot and fulfill it. Kol divrei Torah azot. Ki lo davar reku. This is not an empty thing. This is actually your chachma and your bina. This is your intelligence. You have to teach it all to your children. What? Ma'aseh karbanis. There are so many mitzvahs which are only for a few people. The halachas of a king only deal with the king. The halachas of a kohen gadol deal with the kohen gadol. The halachas of kohenim deal with kohenim. No, not a kohen. I don't own a petah chamor. I don't own donkeys. So I don't have the mitzvah to give I never had a chor. I'm sorry. My firstborn is a girl. Excuse me. I was not. My father didn't have a chor. My firstborn is my older sister. No. So what about the mitzvah? He didn't have that either. Okay. For most people, it's an empty mitzvah. It's like telling me stories in a book. Here we have in Parshat Tetzaveh. This week it says Chukas Olam. Hello? Chukas Olam is perpetual forever. Haven't seen it in a long time. Where's this Chukas Olam? By the neiris of the menorah. Do we have the menorah today in the Beis Hamikdash? It says Titzaveh, and we know that the pasuk says in Vayikra Tzav es Aaron, or Tzav is Bnei Yisrael. So the Gemara says in Kiddushin, Kol Makom Shenemer Tzav Miyad Ule Dorot. This is perpetual, forever. How is this forever? Hinei lo nimshach lecha dorot. Ki kama dorot avru. We never have so many generations in the past. Shechashchu ra'otenu ve'einenu ra'ot bekalot. We see no more. We don't see a geula in front of us. We don't see a migdash. We don't see a kohen. We don't see a menorah. We don't see anything. So what is this exactly? But what is largely deduced from this, because these questions are serious, on one hand, God says this is perpetual. On the other hand, we see we have a lull of 2,000 years already now. All those values, all those occurrences and values, and the mitzvahs which come on them. There's no question the laws of a king are there and needed to train the king to certain values the king has to have. Or the kohen has certain halachas we're supposed to mold him to a certain type of personality in a certain time and space. This is very important to learn. You look at all those mitzvahs. Liotam b'sefer v'chochma v'limud eluki. You must look at all the mitzvahs not just as laws and ritual, but each one of them represents a value, a thought, an idea, a philosophy of life, which all intelligent people should be looking at all those mitzvahs and trying to find out what the value behind them is, what midah tova do you learn from it, what belief do you derive from it, and so on and forth. This is based obviously on Rambam and Ramban. Both great Rishonim say that all the mitzvahs are there to teach you limudim, and they elaborate on it. The Rambam and Nebuchim elaborates on this book, Akedah Yitzchak, heavily based on that idea of explaining the sipurim of the Mikra and the halachas of the Mikra to teach us values and how to act and how to feel and how to see things. They're not just ma'asalech, and they're not just dinim. What are you supposed to see in it, beyond it? So he says, "B'sefer v'chochma v'limud eluki bo ya'inu kol balei haseichel." All intelligent people should be looking into these things. V'yaskilu b'yanehem, and they will become intelligent by analyzing the ideas behind the stories, the ideas behind the mitzvahs. Ad she'alu b'nafsham, until they become part of their personalities, b'torat limudim v'yunim, muskalim v'sharim b'sichlam. Until you have processed all the Torah into ideas, ideals, philosophies, and values, which will stay in your personality. They will build you and mold you. As the pasuk says in Dvarim, u'shvartem is kol divrei habrit hazot. You must heed all the words of this covenant. You should fulfill the words of this covenant. What for? Leman, in order. God himself says, why do you want you to do all these mitzvahs? Leman taskilu. That you should become intelligent. At kol asher tasun, you will think how whatever you do, you will understand. In other words, the Torah is supposed to become the paradigm through which you perceive reality and life. It's through that paradigm that you have emotional reactions and so on and so forth. That's what the mitzvahs are for. This is a beautiful Ramban. I once taught it in Parshas Beshalach, where the Ramban writes on the pasuk, "V'hazanta lemitzvotav." So the Ramban says it means you should listen to the ideas or the music behind the mitzvahs. Find out what they're for. What value is there that's teaching you? What do you learn from those mitzvahs? And that's what you're supposed to do. That's how you should fulfill it. Fayadato maram. The part the Torah kind says, Ushmartem ze mishnah. What is shmartem? First learn. Get learning. Va'asitem kimashmo. And then do. It was learn the mitzvah and then fulfill it. Amar, it meant to say. So the Balaked explains this Torah kind of she'ainu b'divrei brit hazot. You should conceptualize and think deeply into the words of this covenant. It means the Sefer HaTorah. V'yasu otam ba'ofan shelo bevad ya'aleh b'yadav ha'maaseh. The way you fulfill the mitzvah is not just by doing the action, ela asher yasu shar mimenu muskal b'nefesh. But whatever they do should stay an idea carved in your personality, in your nefesh. Ki hu ha'maaseh ha'shalem. That is the way mitzvahs are supposed to be done. Not externalities, but learning prior to that Mishnah and then Asiya, as the Torah Kainim says, you learn meaning, purpose. This is literally, this is much beautiful, much broader than the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, which writes it in a short parak. He really puts it down. This is the Kiyam HaSholem. And that's what its purpose is. Ki hu ha'maaseh ha'shalem ha'omei tamid. That's there forever. You see, you do a mitzvah here. You took your trumpet to the Kriyas of Megillah, and you disturbed the Kriyas of Megillah for a lot of people. And every time you said Haman, you acted like a barbarian, and you blew your trumpet. Very nice. So what happened? Outside exhibiting your existence, because you weren't sure that you exist, so therefore you need the affirmation of other people being annoyed with you. What have you done? See, if you really and emotionally you want to eradicate some kind of an Amalek, and you really hate this for real, who you're hating exactly, okay? And that's what you're trying to do is eradicate that. You can't contain yourself, but you want to eradicate it. Good. Make the noise. That will stay forever. Yes, an action which comes from thought and expresses the thought fortifies that thought and that feeling. And then you walk away with that, you actually have that thought as part of you. But stop making noise in the shul outside of being a nuisance. What are you doing? And what do we mechanech our children to do that? To do that. Externalities which are totally nothing to do with Yiddishkeit. So he says to you, Amaisa Sholem Ha'emet Tamid V'lo Yosef B'avur Shat HaMaaseh. V'kvar yo'ilu elo masim. You do these actions in that way. Lehem liyana chochma yoter misifrei chochmot chitzoniyot. You do these mitzvahs in that way. It's much more than reading any Musar book or any other book of morals and ethics. Because what you're doing is you study the actions and you acted upon these values. And these values are actually something that you constantly act upon. That internalizes things much more than reading a Sichat Musar from Rabbi X, Y, or Z. We read a lot of things, but if you live those values and do them, this will actually make you into another type of a person. So the Balakeda says, this is what the Kodesh Baruch Hu meant about Taskilu Chol Asher Tasun. We do these mitzvahs in order that we should become people that live the values of the Torah. This is the pasuk in Nitzavim. You should heed the mitzvahs and you should do them. Why? Vavos, for this is your wisdom, and this is your knowledge, this is your understanding. This is the paradigm of your thought and how you're supposed to be formed into a thinking, feeling person. When this becomes evident to people, as the pasuk says, when Jews actually live and fulfill the mitzvahs the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu has expected it from us, what does the pasuk say? That the local Girgashi farmer and Chivi tailor and Chiti candlestick maker, What will they say when we see us living that way? Am chacham v'navon hagoy hagadol. They don't say we're frum. They don't say, oh, we're very ardently religious and we fulfill our ritual. These are wise, intelligent people because they understand that these mitzvahs are there to internalize and generate ideas, values. And this is a nation of morals and ethics and profound values. That's called Am Chacham V'Navon. So they don't say you're flum. They say you're wise. That's the big yesod. That's what he says. This level of action, that yes, doing actions together with limud, with studying the action, and chachma, and having a knowledge and intelligence in this ma'aseh. Yes, sorry to say, this is the domain of people who choose to ask questions and think. But we all know that thinking is a rare activity, and most people don't ask questions. We do. I always say that's the best. That's why the Rambam says that before you do anything, before you learn anything, he says before you do even ma'asim or kavod, who knows what, he says you have to know kol havayoda ba'everava. You have to be totally trained in all the dialogues of Abai v'Rava. It's a nice way of saying Talmud Bavli. And he says why? That there's no question that Jewish thought and philosophy and Zechira Torah are davar gadol. This is very big. And halacha, Talmud Bavli is called davar katan. He says, you're right, I agree. But you can't know anything and understand anything unless you first are trained in Talmud Bavli. Why? Because miyashev es hamoach ves halev. It makes you a disciplined thinker and a trained person which trains his emotions to fit with his perceptions. Miyashev es hamoach ves halev. That's what the Rambam says. So first you have to know Havayoda Ba'ever Rava, why it's so important to learn good old Talmud Bavli. And ultimately then move on further. Now that you know how to train yourself in thought and in feeling, do the mitzvahs and learn Zechira Torah to the same time, mitzvahs, and then you'll be able to internalize that. You'll be able to listen to the music and internalize thoughts and ideas. Steht weiter in Bala Akeda, Omnam haboirim ba'am, but the poor and ignorant people in our nation, Osima mitzvah betnuotehem, they do the mitzvahs externally. Yeah, most of us, we do the mitzvahs externally. Levad only, mishulelis mishum kavona min hakavanos aleihem, that are usually devoid of any such thought as the firm mentioned. And on that, the pasuk says in Yeshayahu Chavtes, "V'ti'ir atam oti," they're awe of me, mitzvat anashim lumada. They do it basically as a habit of rote. They do it externally. It's a habit. Not that they really care about me. No one really is. Yes, what does Yireh Shamayim mean? We tried to ask people what it means. They'll hem and haw. If you have Yireh Shamayim, what does it mean? Are you afraid the sky's going to fall on you? No. Are you afraid you're going to burn in hell? Well, look, how many Averis you're doing. You're obviously not afraid of that either. Okay, so what exactly is Yireh Shamayim? Most people don't even know what it is. They say that. They do things by rote. And this is what the Rama writes. For Rambam, Amei Ha'oretz means people who have not attained any sense of perfection. They live mediocre lives and don't strive for perfection in anything, either in their intelligence or in their midos, b'ma'alot hasichliot or ma'alot hamidotiyot. That's what he calls Am Ha'oretz, which can mean a lot of very fine people, which don't Bavli Yerushalmi, but they still don't strive for perfection in either their intellectual religiosity or their emotional personalities. Ha'oskim b'mitzvos heim harotzim lavo el hamelech. Yeah, they all strive to come to the king with the Knesset stone. They want to enter his castle. But they don't even see where the castle is. People doing external religion have a very indirect relationship with God. They never enter the castle. They don't even know where the castle is. That's a very beautiful Ram. I'm dealing with Ashgacha Pratis. If you do a mitzvah externally, It's if you were digging a pit in the ground, or you're chopping wood in a forest. You don't even know what you're doing. You're just moving your hand with an axe. You don't even know what you're doing. Below mitzvah, so you don't know why you're doing it. You don't know who commanded it. You don't even know what the purpose is. You don't know what you're doing. Below matachlit kavanato. That's what you're doing when you're doing a mitzvah. Below tachshov shigata letachlit. But what? Tias karov mimi shenemar bahem karov ato b'fiem rechok b'kil yosem. You're very close to God in your mouth, but you're very far in your kidneys, which means in your inner self. Klayos yoetzos. Kidneys are perceived something which gives wisdom, advice, and you basically that inner self is devoid of any God awareness. Yomar ki kasher yaseh mitzvah b'pchinata. If you do the mitzvah with its idea, and you do it for its purpose, that's the ultimate way of doing avodas Hashem. Knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it, and what you're looking for. If these three things are missing, you don't know what's tachlis, you don't know the mitzvah. You're really missing. You're just doing it externally. But we must admit, something which cannot deny. This is a limit for Klal Yisrael. All the man does not know the reason for the mitzvah, or its basic principle, through his intelligence. But if you do it for the purpose, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm doing it to fill the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch. I'm not doing it because of ritual. I'm not doing it because of habit. I'm not doing it because this is what Jews do. It's like, oh, I eat shont on Shabbos, but the Jews do it. So you think the same thing is with tefillin. Okay, you think the same things with tzitzis. So you're doing it because this is Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you want to fulfill the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You already enter the castle. You may not have a direct relation with the king, but you're in the house. At least from far, you recognize the king. He who commands you only see him through a veil, but at least you can see who it is. So you have the Rebbe, the Balakeda is pointing out the way of doing mitzvahs is finding their values and living that, and letting the mitzvahs internalize the values. But he says if you do the mitzvah just because it's a command, because it's Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Ritva writes in Psachim, that is the reason for making a bracha. But we don't even think you make a bracha before a mitzvah to say I'm doing this because of a commandment of God and not because of habit. I'm putting on tefillin not because, that's the way it is. I'm putting it on because it's tzivui b'kadosh baruch hu. That's why you make a bracha. Asher kitshanu b'mitzvos b'tzivanu. I'm saying this is a commandment and God commanded me. That's the reason for birchas mitzvahs. What happens today, we mumble that also. We don't even chap what we're saying. Okay, but that's the purpose. At least remember what I'm doing is a commandment of my sovereign, of my Lord, of my King, of Elokeinu, my Lord, my Melech. Finally, he writes, Hinei kol ma shekatavnu. So now he says, Amnam, ela maskilim behem al derech she'amarnu, but those who live mitzvahs with intelligence, hey mashe yo'ilu tamid, those mitzvahs will be there forever. There is no mitzvah which is not forever. You may not be able to do the external mitzvah, but the tama mitzvah, the value of the mitzvah, lives forever. So we may not have anymore the capability of acting on that value through this mitzvah, and thus helping us internalize this mitzvah. Yes, we're a bit on a crutch here, but at least the value of the mitzvah is something which can live today and forever. He says, Hey mashe yo'ilem tamid kol ha'mitzvot, zot haTorah u'b'chinatam yavo ziruzam miyad l'dorot. Whenever it says tzav is miyad l'dorot, you may not have a korban oila l'dorot, but the idea of an oila can be lidorot. You can think about the idea of the oila, contemplate the Torah of the oila. You can think about the values of the oila and work on that cerebrally and ultimately emotionally, and then you have actually fulfilled that aspect of the mitzvah. This is what I want to get to. Everything we spoke about, Miyanei Mishkan, Vamenorah, he elaborates in Shar Nun Beis, all about the kavanos and the values and the ideas that we get from the dimensions of the Mishkan and the Klei Mishkan. There's no difference between living in Spain in 1300 and living in the Midbar when they had to build the Mishkan. As far as the values are concerned, we should be able to get to the same place. So when God says v'yikli truma and etc. to make a Mishkan, now you have to learn what does it mean in Jewish thought, the Mishkan, and what is the values that come out of that, and how that's supposed to translate itself into your life, ultimately into your activities. But there has to be a medrash there. We have to learn first the kavanas mitzvahs. Once you've got the value, it doesn't matter really whether you have the externality of it or not. This is mamish the idea that quoted from the Ramchal. Basically, yes, you don't have that part of the mitzvah, but you're still left with the other part. The shleimus of the mitzvah is the kavanas mitzvah. You may not have the ma'isa mitzvah, but you have the kavanas mitzvah, and that's what you have to focus on. Hamashal, hikashay yaskil adam. You get an example. Here we had mentioned that before. There's a mitzvah, if you have two chamorim, two donkeys, which are laden up with loads and they're falling apart, you have to help one of them, to unload some of the stuff, to help the poor animal, help the bailim, and one of them belongs to a person that you hate, which is a balavera, he's a mamish, a balavera, what can I say, without going a balavera, b'mezid, which the David Amelch says, you're allowed to hate this person, okay? And you have your best friend. You're supposed to do it to the sign first. Why? So Dr. Balakeda, what will that teach you? This will help you. First of all, by helping that person, you will distance the venom between you. You will diffuse the argument. You will diffuse the sina. Bein anashim. And you will plant within yourself immediately kinyan gamur, that I should never want to hate people. And people should care about each other. See, all of that is in that mitzvah. So if you actually act upon that, when it's not easy, you're really acting upon a tremendous value. Well, I can't. Well, it's not around. I still have that value to work upon. Once he has internalized that value by doing that mitzvah, he will act that way in everything. Not in this specific occasion. This is a value he will carry through life. He may not have the chamor b'soina or the he will still act in harchakas ha'eva, distancing himself from hating people and wanting to help people. This is what this mitzvah is supposed to train you to. V'akesh al zeh, equate this b'chol ha'mitzvot. Ki ha'kavana b'kulam, at the end of all the mitzvahs, this is the source, this is Ramban, and also Rambam in a few places, v'lamed anashim, to teach people, v'lhargilam, to give them a habit, elatov v'yashar. They should know what is good and what is straightforward. Ramban writes, what does tov v'yashar mean? It means, it doesn't mean the mitzvos are refraining from averos. It means the values which are not commanded, what we call gray area, what is good and straightforward in the eyes of God. Not just the commandments, the Ramban says, what are the values? Menschlichkeit, what we call, la'olam yehei adam, period, zayin mensch. Okay? Ein mitzvah ma mitzvot. There's not a single mitzvah which is not perpetual. Every mitzvah has a value. As far as that's concerned, the Abayis Beis Hamikdash never left us. We may not actually have tangible animal sacrifices. The idea behind the animal sacrifices has definitely not been eradicated. And what is that? So he said, if he remembers the karbanos, you know what he'll remember? He will be nichna, subordinate, subjugated, humble in front of his master God. And here brings the pasuk, you'll be sensitive when it comes to God and your religion. And whatever you do, learn Parshas Vayikra and understand that the value of being an Eved Hashem and actually saying, listen, I would actually want to give my life for the Mizbeach, but instead my animal instincts, I'm sacrificing to God. You're trying to walk away from your animal instincts and elevate them. That's what you're trying to do. And that's what the pasuk says, Zivchei Elokim, you know what the korbanos of God are? Ruach Nishbara, the broken spirit. V'leiv Nishbar, it is the broken heart. V'nittan, one which is humble. Or actually meek. Elokim lo tivzeh, that is the korban which God will never walk away from. Thus we know, and this is close, I'm going to skip a line quoting Gemara in Menachos Kubav, where the Gemara says in Menachos, Zayis Teiras ha'olah, Kala Osek b'Teiras olah, Ki'ilu hikir v'olah. So people think it means you say Ezer Makomon in the morning, oops, I said Parshas ha'olah, it's as if, that's what it means. It means whoever spends his life as Osek. Osek means what? It doesn't mean, it means that's your vocation. La sok b'divrei Torah, open up from. It means that's your vocation. That's your ikar isu. Everything else is for parnasa, but the jewel of the day is those minutes that I can sit down and learn Torah. That's my ikar isu. Everything else is around it. Okay, that's what la sok b'divrei Torah means. So he says, yes, la osek b'teiras olah. If you spend your vocation, your ikar avoid is to do the Torah of the olah. What does the Olah teach you? Then, even when there is no Olah, you also, as if you're a Makar ben Olah. That's what it means. Doesn't mean just saying Ezer Mekayim. In light of the forementioned, it is clear that we're looking at a value in Amalek. And that value is something you can't hate. And that is something we would want to eradicate. What is it that we want to eradicate? So here, I still have stuff to do. I'm going to stretch this a bit the other 5-10 minutes, if you don't mind. Okay, so I could go immediately to a mimer that's Tzemach Tzedek, but I choose to say this orally in my way this time, so if you don't mind. The pasuk says in Parshas Balak, Reshit Goyim Amalek, the first nation that attacked us was Amalek. Vachrito, but his end, Adei Oved, he will be totally eradicated and there will be no remnant of him. Now, this is in juxtaposition to the famous pasuk that we all know, we say every day, at least twice, 3 times, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Now, a lot of interpretations, but I suggest we read Rashi. It's Rashi which brings the Sifri there in Parshat Bet Hanan. Hashem Shu Elokeinu Ata. God, which is our Lord now, but he is not the Lord of all the nations. V'lo Elohei ha'umot. We hate to say it. He did not. Yudke Vavke is not the boss of the world. For them, they have other lords, so to speak. Hu atid liyot Hashem Echad. He will be once the only Lord existed. Shene'emar, I will switch the nations. Safa Blura, they will all have one clear language. L'kro kulam, they will all call b'shem Hashem by the name Yudke Vavke. V'yom in that day, Hashem Echad, B'shma Echad, everybody's going to be under the dominance of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. This is a Sifri in Parshas V'eschana. So here it says that, ultimately all the nations will accept the dominance of the monarchy of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. There's one nation that won't. Will not get there, but will ultimately be eradicated, which is Amalek. That's Reshit Goyim Amalek, V'achrito Adei Ad. Now, what is it that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying? All the Umos Ha'olam have a place. At the moment, they're off the road. But through history and through Avodas Hashem of the Jews and Gilui Shechina, ultimately their personas will be redeemed and they will all become they will all there's only one nation which the Nabi says clearly it won't happen. He will not be there. But nothing's right there. He is going to be destroyed. Pasuk says, so I could talk to you in the Lashon of Tzemach Tzedek, but that we did that last year. Today I want to talk in a simpler Lashon because it's late. Pasuk says in Mishlei, in Perik Yutes, Pasuk Chafei, let's takeh. Tis the cynic. Let's is not a clown. Clowns are not even happy people. There's a famous picture of a tearing clown. Clowns are sad. Let's does not mean a clown. Leitzanis does not mean, horsing around. A let's means a cynic. He's a cynic. He doesn't attribute importance to anything. Let's takeh, it is the cynic, which is smitten. But he doesn't learn anything from that. As the pasuk says in Mishnah, al tochach let's. Don't try to rebuke a cynic. He's going to hate you. It's not going to help. A let's is a stira to teichacha. Pasuk says, let's takeh upeti, the fool, which is not a let's, yarim, he becomes wise. So the Medrash writes, let's takeh, there was a war with Amalek. Amalek is a let's. And who became wise? Not Amalek. Yisro became wise. He was just a petty. He was just a man which was misguided. This way he became wise. Goyim kill Goyim, and the Yid has to become Tlug. This is the way it works. Let's takeh. A let's is somebody which is a cynic, and therefore you can't rebuke him. Let's try to understand what this means and why. It's very important. People through history have given importance to things. They attach importance. Different societies give different importance to things. So the ultimate importance is the world of religion. They gave importance to the stars and the moon and Avodah Zarah. They gave importance. They live in a reality that there's something up there that we have to give importance to. They'd rather go to a local shtibel and to this main synagogue. Okay, so they got the wrong address, and their midos push them to their comfort zone, and therefore each nation has a different comfort zone. So it looks for a God which is custom tailored to his comfort zone, like most of us. You look for the rabbi which will give a Judaism that you will feel comfortable with. So that is the story of history of the religions. Everybody's looking for a comfort zone, and you have some kind of entity which is or is not there, which will be custom tailored to your comfort zone. The Rambam describes how the Jews, how originally man walked away from God because living with God was like living with your mother-in-law. What can I tell you? Wasn't comfortable. So we look for something. It's like, I don't want to be the office boy of the president. I'm going to have to drink single malt and play golf and be his caddy. I'd rather go with the department head who drinks beer, wears jeans, and goes bowling. You know what I mean? I look to a God, a religion which will fit my comfort zone. Each person looks for the shtibel or the shul, which there's a nice mix between the kiddush and the schmoozing and the bistel davening. Everybody finds his comfort zone. This is but we're looking for chashivas. The question is, we want a relative chashivas which won't be too overwhelming. Ultimately, the day will come where we will see how everything else is meaningless, and that basic netiya, that basic drive for giving importance to things, will be directed in the right place. You know, you do have a sense of there's importance. There's something above you. Just don't. I'm a bit misguided. The moment I want to preserve my comfort zone, I can understand a reality, which finally you let go of your comfort zone and try to be honest. And that's what it said, that day will come when there will be no more evil and people will gravitate to what one God. That's what you pray for every Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, isn't it? V'yidako pa'ul ki ato pa'alto, v'yavin kol yitzur ki ato yitzarto, v'yomar kol asher neshama bato, Hashem Elokei Yisrael melech, u'malchuto b'kol mashallah. And God is the king. That's what's going to happen. Well, all the midos rosh that we have, which push us to try to preserve our comfort zones and therefore mess up our perceptions of reality and our religiosity, that will ultimately can be fixed. There's one thing that can't be fixed. That which stands as the antithesis to any sense of truth and reality, that's called cynicism. Cynicism means to say, there's nothing. It's garnished. It's nothing. It's called shtiyot. There's nothing there. I'm not looking for comfort. I'm not have a comfort zone. I'm not subjugated to anything. There is nothing. There's simply nothing there. So don't rebuke with morals and values. It's all meaningless. It's the equivalent to eat, drink, be merry, because tomorrow, and be merry, for tomorrow we're going to die anyway. There's nothing afterwards but the big black hole. It's cynicism to religion. Go on campus today, in any real campus. Oh, brother, if you're not cynical about religion, you're in the wrong place. It's cynicism to the basic idea of a chashivus of dam alam muncha. You tell me that I do this, I'm going to connect to God. Give me a break, man. You're living in an imaginative world. Coach Diyat. You guys are nuts. Destroying chashivus is destroying a world of religion. Religion cannot exist unless man has a sense of chashivus. He has to attach importance to something. I repeat, you may be misguided. I attach importance to marriage. And therefore I live a certain way. Okay? Should I not attach importance to marriage in case I happen to have a roommate? I'll get another one. We can go on and on. I attach importance to honesty. I attach importance to multiple values, and so do you. But we live in a society which doesn't attach importance to a lot of our values. And they infest us and infect us. For let's be very honest. Do you really believe that your mamish hashgacha pratis? So how can you possibly say or do things in front of God that you wouldn't do in front of your mother? How can you possibly do things? You really believe in God? So where's this? You're now saying things or looking at things, surfing and things that you wouldn't do when your mom was around. I thought God's looking. Nah, that's in the Chassidish Sforim, you know what I mean? God's not looking? What? No, he's actually an old, feeble guy, you know. He's got Alzheimer's by now. He's pretty old, you know. Come on. You're actually a kaifer. Because you're not attaching chashivas to the mitzvahs of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore you don't really think he cares or knows. In a way, you're denying his existence. Or you're limiting him, making him a God which fits with your needs. When you decide, I don't care, he also has to decide, I don't care. So you're cutting him and pasting him according to what you feel is important. Do you really believe that when you daven Shemona Esrei, you're mamish in dialogue with the Kadosh Baruch Hu? What we learned last week about tefillah? Do you really believe that standing in front of a Shemona Esrei, standing lifnei Ashchina, and if somebody walks between you and that Daled Amos, he's making a chatzitza between you and the Shekhinah? Remember, we learned that 2 weeks ago to Sifra and Shulchan Aruch. Come on, relax. Don't flip out on me. What, did you flip out in Eretz Yisrael or something like that? That's what they'll tell you. That's cynicism. We don't even believe in our own religion. We're quite cynical about it. And that's why we don't really grow. We don't really believe we can. We don't believe it's really there. We lack chashivas to whatever is messing up with our comfort zone. We have a little Amalek in ourselves too. And the Sefer Yetzirah writes that this month of Adar was created with the ice of Kuf. Kuf. The Tzaddik Akain writes, this means to say, Kuf can mean two things. It can mean Kedusha, you can become a transcendent person, a sublime person, a person of thought, values, and you can be nothing more than a Kuf, which is a kof, a monkey. It's monkey. Read Jungle Book about the Bandar Log, the monkey people, which basically don't have a personality of their own. The way they converse is simply by repeating the speech of other animals. Read Rudyard Kipling. That's a monkey. A monkey says, I have nothing in myself. I can only reflect the world around me. Isn't that the sign of Judaism I know today? Where people don't try to build an inner self. They don't read the Sakeda Sitsu that we just read. They do mitzvahs mechanically. And they don't even believe there can be more. So I'll shake like a window, washer over there in a car during a storm, okay? And I'll feel good about myself. Did you actually think you're standing in front of the Shekhinah? Did you talk that way? Would you talk that way to your mother and you're ready? You said Shemona Esrei so fast. This is Oimed Lifnei HaShekhinah, which is Ma'akev and Tefillah. More the Kula Alma. The Torah says we don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe we can be real people. We've succumbed to the cynicism of our Western culture. Don't really believe in religion. We act religiously, but hate the same. It's Visvasam Kibduni Ubelibum Bal'imi. Thank God, God does not take away the mitzvahs as he did during the Holocaust and during the Inquisition. But we should know we're suffering from a similar reality. To any person that really wants to be religious, at least wishes to will, to want, to aspire to really live a religious life, this causes tremendous frustration. And sometimes you hate the fact that this is your challenge. And you scream to God, take out to the end of your soul. Can you please stop this? I don't want to live with the cynicism. I do want to believe that I can grow, and I will grow. But let me believe in myself, believe in the stuff. It's Western society, which is kicking you in the side, specifically if you went to the academia. Unbelievable cynicism towards God and religion. No chashivas at all. And no Musar Sefer will help, because al toichach let's pen yisnaeka. And that's the midas haletzonis, which must be eradicated. And that's the mechias Amalek, that's the Torah's Amalek that I think we'd be doing on Purim. So instead of acting like a bunch of monkeys in Jungle Book, actually taking it as a day of introspection. How do I get rid of my cynicism and believe in a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and believe in Hashgacha Pratis, and believe in His Torah, and believe in yourselves. Believe that you can be something more and better. That's what that's supposed to be. When I was younger and a bit healthier, in my house, we used to do Purim. Ben, you'll remember this. This goes, man, from 2 p.m. till 2 p.m. You know what I mean? Believe me, it looked more like Yom Kippur than anything else. That was Purim. Purim was a time of thinking about, as Rav Hutner once says, two people were together at Sinai. Their souls were there. And now they want to connect together as soul people at Sinai, but the body doesn't let you. So you give the body a bissel alcohol, put him to sleep, and then the souls can talk to each other. The idea is it's a day of the neshama, it's a day of the inner person, it's a day of walking away from the cynicism of the society we're in. And for me, this is my sina, and I do hate it because it's terribly frustrating. I'm not a little boy anymore. I've been climbing this mountain for multitudes of years. Hell, man, I want to put the flag down. You know what I mean? It's a very Sisyphean story. You go up a mile and you fall back 2 miles. This is the Amlek Shebechol Dor V'Dor. This is the Amlek the Balakeda is talking about. The stuff that you can remember and take with you forever. And believe me, I don't need a Kriyas Torah to remember that. It's my frustration in religion on a daily basis. If all of a sudden I find myself slipping and saying a bracha and Shemona Esrei without real kavanah, at least God awareness, and let it go, I stop and I repeat. Because tefillah without kavanah, I didn't daven, I didn't say the bracha, so I'll repeat it, and I'm very frustrated. And that's my mechiyas Amalek. I share this with you, you're my friends. I'm praying and hoping that you will also have these kind of migraines. I say a good teacher is one that gives his students tons of headaches. Okay? The ultimate end of this headache will be Reishis Goyim Amalek Achrisei Adei Oived. This let's will cease to exist. Kol Tuv, Zait Gebenched. Again, this was the little initials, my nephew. The Shloshim is going to be Tiny Sister. Yisrael Meir Ben Bela and Daniel Zalman should have Aliyas on the Shama. A Freilich Purim, a meaningful Purim, a meaningful Purim. Zait Gebenched. Kol Tuv. Take care. Bye.